Tell me about spikes versus feet. What should I use in what situation? We have basically two different options in all of our speakers. So all of the speakers comes with rubber pads underneath the feet. So if you have a hardwood floor or some other type of hard floor, just basically put them down on the rubber feet, and that will kind of isolate it from the floor. Now, if you have a carpet, that doesn't really work very well. The speaker might be wobbling about. So insert the spikes so that the spikes can penetrate the carpet and go into whatever floors beneath that, hopefully concrete or something similar, and adjust it so that it's perfectly level, and then the speakers is solidly grounded on the floor, and you should get the best performance from that. Okay, next question. I've read about something called toe-in. What does this mean exactly? If you imagine setting up the speaker in front of you, if you point the speakers directly forward, that will basically be called no toe-in. And if you then imagine angling the speakers towards you to fire more directly in, that would be called towing in the speakers. So the reason to do this is that the tweeters are more directional than the woofers. So the amount of tweeter level compared to mid-range and bass levels will vary depending on which angle you put the speakers in. So when you have more toe-in, you might have more tweeter level. But it really also depends on the room and how the reflections work in your room. So what we should do is basically test out different angles to figure out what actually sounds best in the listening position. I have one tip on how to do this, which is start out by actually placing them wrong. So toe them outwards, which is definitely going to be wrong. Then start listening to a track that you know well, and then gradually angle them inwards. Take note of, does the sound improve, which it will do in the beginning. And at some point you've gone too far and you can hear now it sounds actually worse, and you can go back again. That's a simple way of figuring out what is the optimal toe-in for that specific listening position. So what you should be listening for is that for instance, the voice of a singer should be clearly positioned in the middle. So you should have a believable presentation of the voice in the middle of the room. But you want to have a wide sound stage where things are split out probably from each other, without having like a hole in the middle. You want that center imaging to be perfect. So that balance of those two needs to be right. But once you actually do it and you do this gradually, it very quickly actually becomes very easy to hear. It's a lot easier to hear than it is to explain. So just try it and you'll get the answer